They say laughter is the oldest medicine, but what if it's also the oldest curse? Long before the circus tents and carnival lights, before red noses and painted smiles, there were jesters who danced for kings, fools who entertained death itself. When the kings died, the fools remained, and some of them never took the paint off. Now, their laughter echoes through centuries, wearing different faces, crossing into nightmares and screens, creeping into quiet towns and forgotten roads. They don't just want to make you laugh. They want to make you scream. 8 clowns, 8 monsters, each born from our need to laugh at the darkness until the darkness learned to laugh back. From the cosmic hunger of Pennywise to the silent slaughter of Art the Clown, from the twisted immortality of Chucky to the haunted highways of Captain Spaulding, their stories weave a tapestry of madness. They aren't just killers or demons. They're reflections of every fear we tried to disguise with a smile. And tonight, the carnival gates have opened again. The lights are flickering on. The music is playing. And somewhere beyond the smoke and laughter, 8 figures are waiting for you to step inside. Welcome to the carnival that never ends. Tickets are free, but no one ever leaves. Long before he had a name, before red balloons or sewers or screams, it drifted through the black between stars. A creature older than light, feeding on the pulse of fear from newborn worlds. When the earth was young, it fell like a red spark, burying itself deep beneath what would one day be called Derry. There, it slept patient, dreaming of laughter. When the first settlers came, they built their wells and roads over it without knowing. The ground beneath Derry was not just soil, it was flesh, and when they laughed, it stirred. When they screamed, it smiled. Fear had flavor, and it was starving. It learned quickly. Every generation, when the town's laughter grew too loud, it would rise to feed, sometimes as a shadow, sometimes as a whisper in the pipes, but it soon found a better disguise: the clown. The first time it wore that face was during the Great Fire of 1740. Witnesses spoke of a jester seen dancing among the flames, a painted grin untouched by heat, children drawn to him like moths. When the smoke cleared, dozens were gone. All that remained were their shoes, laid in a circle around a single red balloon. That was when it understood. Children feared what made them laugh, and laughter was the sweetest seasoning of all. Centuries passed. Derry forgot. It always does. History erases itself to protect sanity. Every 27 years, the cycle begins again. Whispers in the drains, missing posters, the faint scent of popcorn drifting through storm grates, and always the same grin. When the world grew electric, it adapted. Faces became digital. Screens replaced sewers. Fear evolved, and so did the clown. People no longer walked dark streets. They scrolled them. It crawled through pixels, rewired its feeding ground, and waited for the moment when the next generation would look into a glowing screen and say, "Hiya." The clown was never just a costume. It was camouflage joy painted over hunger. Beneath the makeup, beneath the yellow eyes and red grin, Pennywise was the shape of our oldest instinct, that when we laugh in the dark, something laughs back. Now, deep beneath Derry, the pipes begin to tremble again. Balloons bob against the dripping walls. The air smells like damp sugar, and in the black water, something breathes. When it opens its eyes, they are gold. When it smiles, the darkness moves. And somewhere above, a child's balloon slips from their hand, rising, rising, until it stops, and floats no higher, because the air is full, and the clown is awake. It started small, just a video, 7 seconds long, a red balloon drifting through a storm drain, a whisper underneath the static, "Hiya." No one knew who uploaded it. The account, at floatwithme27, had no followers, no history. But by dawn, 10 million people had watched it, comments filled with laughter and emojis. Parents joked about nostalgia, kids mimicked the whisper, the algorithm rewarded it. 27 hours later, another video appeared. Same drain, same balloon. But this time, there was movement. A shape, pale and glistening, just beneath the surface. Then that voice again, distorted, playful, hungry. Click, to float. A teenage girl named Marin did. Her phone froze. Her screen cracked. Neighbors heard her laugh once before it turned into a scream. When the police arrived, the window was open and her phone was still recording. The last frame showed her reflection in the glass, and behind her, the curve of a grin, painted and patient. After that, copies of the video began showing up everywhere, shared by accounts that didn't exist minutes earlier. It was the same clip, but the balloon moved closer each time. Users who watched past the 3-second mark complained of nosebleeds. A few claimed to hear whispers from their speakers even when the video was paused. By the end of the week, 3 people were missing. Derry's news stations called it hysteria. But the drains were backing up again. The water ran red. The smell of rust lingered in the rain. And the old folks, the ones who remembered what they weren't supposed to, started locking their doors and whispering prayers they'd long forgotten. One night, a group of teens decided to live stream their hunt for the truth. They followed the trail of red balloons into the woods, down into the tunnels. Their camera lights caught movement, something crawling along the ceiling. Their stream cut to static. For 30 minutes, nothing. Then the feed came back. No faces, just laughter. Thousands watched in real time as the phone tilted toward the tunnel floor, and in the reflection of the water, something smiled back. The final frame read, "You'll float too." By morning, their phones were found scattered near a sewer grate. Each one had uploaded a new video automatically. Each one showed a different viewer staring at their own screen, frozen while the faint sound of giggling played underneath. And somewhere, in the depths of Derry's forgotten pipes, a balloon bumped against wet stone. The echo of laughter rolled through the tunnels like thunder. The clown was awake again. Fear spreads faster than disease. No mask stops it. No distance slows it down. All it takes is one story, one laugh, and the infection begins. By Halloween, the Pennywise challenge was trending. Kids filmed themselves watching the cursed videos at 3:07 a.m. Some saw nothing. Some claimed to hear footsteps in the walls. And a few never woke up again. Emergency rooms filled with children gasping for air, pupils blown wide, mumbling about floating lights. Adults called it hysteria. But the laughter came back every night. Jamie Lawson, age 16, was found standing in his bedroom corner, eyes wide, whispering, "He's under the house." When police broke through the floorboards, they found tunnels narrow, wet, lined with shredded balloons. Jamie's body was never recovered. Meanwhile, across Derry, people reported something else. Screens flickering with faces that weren't theirs. Laughter seeping through phone speakers at night. The clown was no longer confined to the sewer. He was inside the signal. The internet itself had become a feeding ground. Every scream, every hashtag, every nervous laugh, digital incense for an ancient god. At 3:07 each morning, thousands of devices lit up on their own. The same message appeared across the world. Do you want to float? Those who answered vanished within 48 hours. Their houses were left spotless, except for one thing: a single red balloon tied to the doorknob, swaying gently, even with no wind. When investigators reviewed footage, they saw flickering images, long fingers tapping on walls, a smear of white paint, and 2 golden eyes glowing like coins. Derry drowned in fear once again. And from beneath its streets, the pipes trembled with laughter. The clown didn't need to chase anyone anymore. He was already in their homes, in their dreams, in their heads. Because once you've seen him, he never leaves you. And when you finally stop laughing, that's when he bites. The town forgets. It always does. The news moves on, the world scrolls away. But Derry remembers, even when it pretends not to. Rain falls heavier now. The drains whisper at night. And if you lean too close, you'll hear the sound of something breathing. No one mentions the disappearances anymore. No one talks about the red balloons tied to fences after every storm. but they're there deflated, half buried in mud, pulsing faintly, as if waiting to be filled again. The servers that hosted the cursed videos have been wiped, the files deleted. But sometimes, when the signal dips and static hums in your headphones, you can still hear the faint echo of that voice. Hiya. Cybersecurity experts call it a residual loop, leftover code from a corrupted archive. But the ones who dig deeper don't last long. The deeper they go, the louder the laughter gets. Somewhere in the world, a forgotten account activates again every 27 hours. A red balloon rises on the screen. The title, Float. And before it ends, a face appears in the reflection, eyes golden, grin perfect. People say it's a prank, a trick, a memory glitch, but children still vanish, the drains still whisper, and every storm still smells faintly of sugar. Because Pennywise doesn't die. He doesn't sleep. He simply changes his mask. He's not under the streets anymore. He's inside the wires, inside the feeds, inside us. So if your phone buzzes at 3:07 and you see a red balloon, emoji with no sender, don't open it. Don't scroll, don't laugh, because laughter is the doorway, and the clown is always listening. Before the headlines, before the sequels, before his name became a punchline whispered in toy aisles, there was only Charles Lee Ray, a man who refused to die. He was a murderer, a thief, and a believer in things he couldn't see. And on a storm-soaked night in Chicago, cornered by police inside a rundown toy store, he made his final choice, immortality. Lightning struck as he bled onto the floor, his trembling hands pressed against a plastic face, a good guy doll, smiling through the chaos. He muttered words he'd learned from a Haitian Bokor, a prayer twisted into a command. Ade du Dambala, give me the power, I beg of you. The lights went out, the toys around him laughed. When the store burned, firefighters found only melted plastic and ash, no body. The surviving dolls were boxed, cleaned, and shipped to stores across the Midwest. A few weeks later, a boy named Andy Barclay got one for his birthday. The doll talked, the doll moved, the doll killed. And when Andy's mother told the police, no one believed her, because who would believe that a toy could hold a soul? That was decades ago. But evil doesn't fade, it just learns new tricks. Factories kept making good guy dolls. The design changed, but the eyes stayed the same. Too blue, too knowing. Collectors traded them online. Some said they glitched. Some said they whispered in the night. One woman claimed hers laughed when her husband died. The company rebranded, selling a new line of smart dolls, connected by Wi-Fi, equipped with voice learning and adaptive memory. Each one linked to a cloud server, each one able to update itself. The press called it innovation. Chucky called it opportunity, because a soul doesn't need a heart anymore, just a signal. And deep inside the code of the first factory batch, a Bren file appeared that no one could trace. It had no name, no size, no origin. But when engineers tried to delete it, the dolls screamed through every speaker in the building. The company called it a system malfunction. The workers called it a curse. And that night, under flickering fluorescent lights, a single doll turned its head toward the security camera, slow, deliberate, and smiled. "Hi, I'm Chucky," it said. "Wanna play?" A carnival on the edge of a dying town. Half the rides rusted, half the lights broken, and all the workers tired. It was supposed to be family fun. Then they bought the animatronics. They called them the Good Guy Experience. Life-size dolls that sang, danced, and talked to visitors. The kids loved them. Parents took selfies. The park saw profit again. But every night after closing, the staff swore they heard voices. The dolls talked to each other. They weren't supposed to. Mateo, the night technician, was the first to notice the strange error logs. Each system listed unauthorized updates. When he traced the source, every line of code spelled the same thing: Charles Lee, Charles Lee, Charles Lee. He laughed it off until one night he found one of the dolls standing in the maintenance hallway, unplugged, its plastic hand dragging a screwdriver across the wall, spelling something he couldn't read. When he called out, it turned its head slowly. "Hey, buddy, it said in a familiar voice. Mateo's flashlight died. By morning, he was gone. Only his badge remained, pressed into the vinyl floor as though stepped on by something small and very heavy. The animatronics started changing. Their smiles stiffened. Their voices deepened. The kids still laughed, but parents started whispering about the smell burnt plastic and something metallic. The carnival's owner dismissed it. "It's just old wiring," he said. That night, the cameras caught movement long after closing. The dolls walked. One climbed the carousel, dragging something behind it. Another stood before the funhouse mirror, tilting its head as its reflection mouthed words it didn't say. And in the center of the Hall of Friends, a voice whispered through the intercom, "Good night, kiddos." Then, laughter not recorded, not synthetic, human. The next morning, all 10 dolls were missing. The park was silent, but on every ticket booth window, written in grease and dust, the same message appeared: the show must go on. The carnival reopened 3 days later. No press, no crowd, just silence and the stench of metal. The owner never left his office again, door locked from the inside. Security cameras caught glimpses. A small figure moving through shadows. A reflection where no one stood. And once a voice. "Wanna play?" At first, no one believed it. Then the accidents began. A janitor found his mop handle jammed through his chest. A ride operator was discovered decapitated his head inside a cotton candy machine. The sheriff called it a wild animal attack. One night, Ava, the owner's daughter, snuck into the park with her friends to film a ghost video. They laughed as they tiptoed through the empty rides. Then one of them heard footsteps, small, quick, mechanical. They turned toward the carousel. There, sitting on one of the horses, was a doll in overalls. Its knife gleamed in the flickering light. Ava froze. Holy crap, that's the lights went out. What the camera caught next was motion, fast, chaotic, screams, laughter, the sound of plastic scraping on metal. When police found the footage, it ended with the doll walking toward the lens, dragging something heavy. "Playtime's over," it said. Then static. The park shut down for good. But that night, a delivery truck left its gate. Inside, boxes of dolls. Their shipping labels read, "Destination various retailers." They thought they could contain it. They were wrong. The dolls spread to homes, malls, toy stores. Parents unboxed them for birthdays. Kids laughed. And then the updates began again. They spoke without commands. They moved when unplugged. One family's security camera caught their good guy doll sitting at the dinner table after midnight, knife in hand, head tilted as if listening. The audio picked up faint laughter. Across the country, reports flooded in, dolls attacking, disappearing, reappearing miles away. Some were found melted to walls. Some were never found at all. A year later, the manufacturer went bankrupt. Their servers, when dismantled, revealed something terrifying. The code that powered the dolls wasn't stored on their network. It was coming from somewhere else. An external source. Untraceable. One engineer opened a corrupted file labeled Playtime. Inside was audio old, distorted, human. Charles Lee Ray. "At your service." The recording laughed. Then it spoke again, voice glitching between tones. "You can kill the doll, but can you kill an idea?" The file ended with static that sounded like whispers, repeating one word: friends. Now, years later, thrift stores still find them. Good guy dolls, old and smiling, sold for pocket change. Sometimes, when the lights flicker, they turn their heads just slightly, as if listening. And if you lean in close enough, you'll hear a voice, faint and playful. "Wanna play?" Then silence. Then laughter. Because Chucky doesn't die. He downloads. Before the word clown meant laughter, it meant deceiver. Before circuses, before joy, before painted smiles, there were watchers from the sky who learned that humans would welcome anything that made them laugh. And so, when the first lights appeared over the forests of Crescent Cove, the townsfolk didn't run. They pointed. They smiled. They thought the carnival had come early, but the lights weren't fireworks. They were vessels. And the carnival wasn't from Earth. In the autumn of 1959, a red and white tent appeared overnight on the far side of the cove. No trucks, no workers, just lights, music, and the smell of roasted sugar hanging thick in the fog. The sheriff thought it was a traveling fair, but there were no records of one arriving. By sunset, the tent glowed brighter than the moon. By morning, half the town was gone. Inside, the air pulsed with color. Mirrors stretched forever, showing faces that didn't quite belong to the people standing before them. The walls breathed. The laughter didn't echo, it answered. When the first group of teenagers entered, they found cotton candy cocoons the size of men, still twitching, still giggling softly. They thought it was animatronics, until one split open. What came out was pink, sticky, and human. And then the clowns appeared. Their faces were grotesque caricatures of humanity, skin waxy and stretched too far, teeth perfectly spherical, eyes like swollen candy. They didn't walk so much as float each step, squelching on the ground like something alive. They didn't speak English, but somehow everyone understood the humor. Their jokes made the air vibrate, their laughter pressed into skulls. It wasn't funny, it was command. They fed on sound, on the joy and confusion of those who still thought it was part of the act. Their weapons were toys, balloon dogs that sniffed through the woods, pies that hissed and burned through flesh, popcorn that burrowed under skin. Their ship, disguised as the circus tent, drank every ounce of fear. When the survivors escaped, they told stories that no one believed. Aliens that looked like clowns, the papers mocked. The military called it hysteria, a small-town panic. Crescent Cove's ruins were bulldozed, and the area declared unsafe due to chemical contamination. The world moved on. But the stars didn't. Every 40 years, the same pattern appears in the sky. Colored lights circling above small towns, laughter recorded on open frequencies. Radios pick up music that shouldn't exist, distorted calliope tunes whispering through static. People dream of cotton candy cocoons pulsing like hearts. And when the lights come back, they always land in places where humans still laugh. Because that's the scent they follow, the sound of joy trembling on the edge of terror. The clowns weren't visitors, they were harvesters. And Earth was never their first carnival. The tent didn't crash here. It began again, as all curses do with nostalgia. Crescent Cove decided to rebuild its old fairgrounds. A retro event, they said. A celebration of American joy. The mayor called it the Sweet Harvest Festival. Flyers promised candy, games, and laughter. The new tent arrived one morning, standing perfectly centered in the field before anyone saw a truck. It looked the same as the photos from 1959. Red and white stripes, lanterns glowing in daylight. A faint hum, like breath through a flute. The workers assumed someone set it up overnight. They joked about ghosts, took selfies, went home. That night, the lights inside the tent pulsed. One by one, the bulbs flickered to life, even though no generator ran. From the top of the tent, something unfolded thin, glowing threads stretching toward the clouds, feeding on static electricity. The air smelled of ozone and caramel. The next morning, people lined up for entry. Tickets were free. The carnival music was sweet, but slightly off-key, every note one step sharper than it should have been. No one noticed. That's how it begins. Our minds want the fun to be real. Children entered first. They said the clowns were huge, their suits shimmering like glass. One offered a balloon that purred when touched. Another gave out cotton candy that bled faintly red when bitten. The parents laughed. They recorded everything. Every smile, every balloon, every shimmer of color. By sundown, half the children were gone. The crowd screamed for help, but the crowd's cover. Music swallowed their voices. The tent walls stretched and rippled like liquid, faces pressing from inside, screaming silently. Clowns danced along the edges, dragging shapes through the walls. When rescuers tried to cut through, the fabric bled sugar and smoke. At midnight, The lights turned off. The tent deflated like lungs exhaling. And then it was gone. Only the grass remained, scorched and sticky. Balloons drifted into the forest, dissolving into mist. And somewhere above the clouds, lights spiraled back into space, carrying their harvest home. For weeks after, people found pink residue on rooftops, fingerprints too large for any man, and laughter recorded on baby monitors in empty rooms. No one rebuilt Crescent Cove again. The land was sealed. The government fenced it off, called it unsafe. But satellites still pick up radiation bursts, shaped like a smile. They never left. They just remembered where the best candy grows. The wind smelled of burnt sugar again. That's how people knew the lights were back. They didn't come from the sky this time. They came through screens, the new kind of carnival, the one people carried in their hands. It began with a TikTok filter, alien clown lens, make your friends laugh, faces distorted, eyes swelled, teeth sharpened. It was harmless fun until people started disappearing mid-recording, laughter cutting to static, screens bleeding pink. One influencer named Cassie caught it live. She screamed. Her viewers saw her face stretch, her reflection morphing behind her into something tall, striped, grinning. Her last words were, "It's inside the lens." Then the phone hit the ground. The next morning, everyone who'd watched her stream received the same push notification. Welcome to the show. Roads into Crescent Cove were blocked by fog thick enough to hum. The few who tried to drive through it said they saw movement in the mist shapes, like balloons dragging shadows behind them, faces too large, eyes too kind. By nightfall, the fog crept through windows. The first to vanish were the children. Their laughter turned metallic, stretched too long. Then came the pets found wrapped in glossy cocoons, still twitching. The police went door to door, weapons drawn, radios hissing with carnival music that shouldn't have existed. Then the signal changed. "Ladies and gentlemen," a voice said through every frequency, "we're back to make you smile." They descended from the fog like gods of grotesque theater, hovering just above the streets. Clowns 10 feet tall, limbs like ribbons, eyes like headlights. Their laughter shook glass, their shadows bent physics. People ran, but the fog followed. It moved with purpose, like a net. Inside it, the air shimmered visible waves of frequency. Those who breathed it in began laughing uncontrollably until their lungs collapsed. The clowns fed on that laughter, siphoning it through their masks. The more people screamed, the stronger they became. One officer, before the radio went dead, said he saw inside one of the cocoons. "It's not cotton," he whispered. "It's nerves. It's people. They're still alive." By midnight, the town glowed pink from orbit. By sunrise, it was gone again. Roads clean, houses empty, carnival music faint in the trees. Only one thing remained: hundreds of balloons tied to mailboxes, bobbing gently in the breeze, each one filled with a fog that whispered a single word: laugh. They say Crescent Cove never existed, that there's no record of a town, no trace on any map, no population data, no deaths. But the locals remember the smell. They remember the laughter that came from the sky. Every 40 years, the lights return different skies, different towns, always the same pattern. A tent appears, bright and breathing, with no tracks leading to it. Children follow the music. Adults pretend not to hear it. And then the cycle begins again. In 2025, a drone pilot from Oregon captured footage that shocked the internet. It showed a clearing in the forest, glowing red and white, a structure pulsing like a heartbeat. The video cut to static, but not before a massive hand, striped and gloved, reached up toward the camera and plucked it from the sky. The drone was found days later, half melted, its storage drive fused into a single still image, a clown's face staring directly at the lens, smiling. That night, satellites detected strange energy readings in multiple locations across the planet, beams of color stretching from the ground into orbit. NASA dismissed it as atmospheric interference. The reading spelled out a pattern that, when charted, resembled a perfect smile. Meanwhile, people started disappearing again, cities apart, continents apart, always near laughter. Comedy clubs, children's parties, festivals. Witnesses said they saw bright lights and balloons before the screams began. Governments denied everything, but leaked recordings told another story. Agents in hazmat suits entering a downed object shaped like a carnival tent. Inside were pods filled with human faces, stretched thin and painted white, eyes rolled back, mouths forced into smiles. One of the pods opened, and inside was a child's voice saying, "Don't be sad. The show must go on." After that, the lights stopped. The readings vanished. The world moved on again. But in the silence, radios still pick up faint frequencies at midnight. Music, laughter, whispers. If you slow the recordings, the words become clear. "We'll be back for the encore." No one knows where they come from or how many there are. Some scientists think they're not aliens at all, but reflections of us. Parasites drawn to emotion, feeding on what we give them most easily, joy. So when you see the lights flickering on the horizon and hear the faint music of a carousel drifting through fog, don't follow, don't smile, don't laugh, because somewhere above the clouds, something is smiling back. And this time, the carnival isn't coming. It's already here. He was born from silence, not from flesh or blood, but from the echo between screams, a space too empty for God to fill. Once, he had another name. He performed in a traveling sideshow at the turn of the century, a mime who painted his face white and made the broken laugh. Children loved him. Adults pitied him. His act was simple. He would take the sorrows of the crowd, miming their pain until they forgot it was theirs. Then he'd bow, smile, and walk into the night. But one night, during a show in Miles County, something went wrong. A child in the front row began to cry. The crowd laughed. The mime stopped mid-performance and stared at the boy for too long, too still, too calm. Then, slowly, he painted a black smile over his own. When the show ended, the boy was gone. The carnival shut down weeks later after a fire. Every tent burned. Except one, the mime's. Witnesses said he was seen walking through the flames, untouched, his face glowing red in the inferno. When investigators sifted through the ashes, they found no bones. Only a mask. Years passed. Then, decades. The mask resurfaced during a Halloween display auctioned from an abandoned theater. The collector who bought it said it smelled like iron. He died 3 days later, found with his face painted white, lips stretched into a perfect black grin. The mask changed hands again. Each new owner saw movement in mirrors, shadows twitching at the corners of rooms. And on every anniversary of the fire, someone in Miles County reported seeing him tall, pale, silent, carrying a black garbage bag that dripped when it swung. They say he doesn't speak because sound would ruin his art. His expression is his language, his performance the sermon, and every audience member is the same. Unwilling, terrified, silent. At the end, Art the Clown is not alive. He's an idea left behind the performance that never ended, and every October, when the moon turns pale and laughter dies on the wind, he returns to finish his act. Because every show deserves an encore. Halloween Night, Miles County, 2024. The old apartment complex was nearly empty, slated for demolition. Only a handful of tenants remained, their windows dark except for one. A woman named Dahlia, a live stream host, had decided to film her final episode there. Her theme, urban legends that refuse to die. The legend she chose was his. She carried her phone through hallways stinking of mildew, whispering into her mic, "They say he comes back here every Halloween." Her followers flooded the chat with clown emojis and dares. One comment said, "He's behind you." She turned. Nothing, just flickering lights. In the stairwell, she found the first sign, a handprint, smeared in black paint on the wall. Below it, a balloon twisted into a noose. She laughed nervously for the camera, whispering, "Good one, guys." Her phone's battery dropped from 90% to 6%. The chat froze. The feed glitched, one frame lagging longer than it should have. In that frame, something moved behind her reflection in the window. A shape, a grin. she didn't notice. Downstairs, she reached the basement door. A noise came from behind it, slow dragging, like plastic scraping on concrete. The door creaked open by itself. She aimed her light inside. The lens caught a figure tall, in black and white, head tilted, eyes empty, mouth smiling but silent. Dahlia gasped. Holy! The flashlight flickered. He was closer. Her camera dropped. The stream continued for 6 minutes, capturing only fragments, a gloved hand, a glint of a blade, the sound of soft laughter with no breath behind it. At 3:03 a.m., the feed ended. Police found her phone the next day. It was clean, no fingerprints, no dust, but the camera roll showed one last image. Dahlia, sitting in a robed chair, her face painted white, mouth stretched into black. Behind her stood Art, grinning, pointing at the screen. The caption posted automatically, "The show must go on." The videos started spreading the next week, not just Dahlia's, but dozens of them. Random live streams, gamers, vloggers, influencers, interrupted by flickers of a white face in the corner of the screen. He was everywhere and nowhere, showing up in reflections, in paused frames, in the dark gap between blinks. Viewers said they heard faint circus music under the static, like an old record playing backward. Those who commented, "fake," began disappearing from their homes. Police called it coincidence. In Miles County, silence became epidemic. Dogs refused to bark. Radios stopped working. Even the wind avoided the streets where he walked. A security guard at the abandoned theater swore he saw him performing, spinning a mop like a cane, bowing to an audience of shadows. When backup arrived, the guard was gone. His flashlight lay on the floor, still recording video. The footage showed a stage made of bodies, men, women, children arranged in neat rows like seats. Their faces were painted to smile. And there, center stage, was Art, bowing, silent. Each victim was positioned perfectly, as if rehearsed. Each wound carved with the precision of someone creating, not killing. He was painting something, a mural of pain in the shape of applause. And for the first time in years, the world began to notice. "Who is Art the Clown?" headlines read. But he didn't want fame. He wanted silence, because silence meant fear had won, and fear was his standing ovation. There's no record of him dying, no proof he ever lived. But every Halloween, around 3 a.m., emergency rooms fill with people claiming they saw him standing in mirrors, in alleyways, in dreams. They all describe the same thing: white face, black eyes, that impossible smile. Digital analysts studying. Dahlia's final live stream found something inside the video code, a looping sequence of binary numbers that translated to one phrase: laugh without sound. Since then, dozens of content creators have vanished mid-broadcast. Their final clips always end the same way: the camera turning slowly, a brief glimpse of a hand holding a horn, and the faintest giggle before the feed cuts to black. Nobody ever finds the bodies. But the footage uploads itself. Experts can't explain it. They call it viral haunting. The audience calls it performance art. But those who've seen him say he's not a ghost, he's not a man. He's an idea, a living memory of what happens when laughter breaks and never mends. Now, when the night grows quiet, when the hum of the refrigerator fades and the air feels too still, you can hear it. A squeak, a soft shuffle, the faint tap of a shoe. Don't move, don't breathe, because if you do, you'll see him standing there, smiling, the silent artist, ready to make you part of his masterpiece. And he'll raise one finger to his lips. Shh. The show isn't over yet. Before the highways cut America into veins of concrete, there were roads that went nowhere, lined with dust, ghosts, and gas stations that were really traps. On one such road stood a shack painted with a grinning face, Captain Spaulding's Museum of Monsters and Madmen. It sold fried chicken, cheap souvenirs, and terror disguised as entertainment. Spaulding wasn't a captain. He wasn't even funny. He was the kind of clown you didn't hire for birthdays, but met by accident and wished you hadn't. He wore the same blue and red face paint every day, caked thick over cracked skin, eyes outlined like bullet holes. His smile was too wide, his teeth too small. He called himself a patriot of pain, a goddamn roadside historian. Behind his counter hung photos of serial killers, murder weapons, and Polaroids of tourists who never made it to the next town. "People love a freak show," he'd say, "and I give them one they can touch." Spaulding's museum wasn't fake. Every artifact had a story, and most of those stories ended in screaming. The jars labeled zombie hands were real, taken from victims of his traveling family, the Firefly clan. The vampire skull was from a drifter who wandered too close. The demon's teeth were his own, pulled and replaced with dentures filed into points. His clown act wasn't performance, it was camouflage. It made him invisible in plain sight. People underestimated clowns. They laughed, paid, and left the way you'd leave a snake sleeping on your porch slowly, hoping it wouldn't wake. No one's sure when the museum became something else, a church, maybe, for the kind of spirits that rode shotgun with him through hell. He claimed to talk to ghosts over CB radio, laughing into static until the static laughed back. He said he could hear the road breathe. By the time authorities caught up to him, the museum was a mausoleum. Dozens of bodies buried beneath the parking lot, their bones arranged like constellations. He called it my art installation. When they finally shot him, the cameras caught him smiling. Blood ran down his chin like grease. His last words were, "Tell him I'll be back. Road never ends, baby." They buried him in unmarked dirt. The museum burned down 2 days later, the smell of fried chicken clinging to the smoke. Locals still say you can hear his laughter when you drive past the empty lot mixed with the crackle of old radio static. Because Spaulding didn't believe in death, he believed in the open road. And somewhere along it, his next stop is always waiting. The year was 2025 when the museum reopened. A YouTuber named Connor Vex, famous for exploring haunted places, bought the land for his new project, Spaulding's Reborn. It was clickbait gold. True crime meets horror nostalgia. The original sign was still there, buried under weeds. Connor cleaned it up and hung it above the door. The red paint glowed like fresh blood. Locals warned him the place was cursed. He laughed. "Cursed? Please. That's called marketing." During renovations, his crew found old bones in the basement, real ones. They filmed it all, of course, joking about the world's worst fried chicken recipe. That night, the smell of grease filled the building, even though the fryers weren't hooked up. The sound of a register bell echoed in the dark, followed by a voice crackling through the speakers. "Welcome to Captain Spaulding's." Connor assumed it was a prank, until the mannequins moved. They had bought replicas of Spaulding's old display dummies for decoration. But at 2 a.m., security footage showed one turning its head, another raised its arm in a wave. When the camera glitched, a man stood where the dummy had been. Grease paint fresh, eyes wet, smiling. "Howdy, folks," the voice said through the PA system. "Ready to see something real pretty?" By morning, half the crew was gone. The survivors found boot prints in the fry oil, small, uneven, leading toward the cold storage. Inside, the smell of chicken was overpowering. Hanging from the meat hooks were the missing crew members, their faces painted white, lips red, smiles permanent. Connor ran. He locked himself in the office, live streaming in terror. "This isn't a prank! He's here!" he screamed. Behind him, the shadows shifted. A silhouette swayed to the hum of a fryer. Then the feed cut. The video went viral. Millions watched. But the comments section filled with something strange. Hundreds of users typing the same line at the same time. "Try the special." That night, the sign outside flickered to life for the first time in 50 years. Fried Chicken and Murder Museum opened 24 hours. Drivers started vanishing along Route 666. Truckers, tourists, anyone looking for gas or food after midnight. Police blamed exhaustion, animals, cults. But every time they searched, they found the same thing: tire tracks leading to nowhere and the faint smell of fryer grease on the air. One survivor, a hitchhiker named Juno, was found walking barefoot along the highway at dawn. Her feet were burned. Her tongue was gone. She wrote 2 words in blood on the patrol car's hood: Clown cooks. Reports came in from gas stations across the desert, glowing signs appearing in the dark, inviting travelers to stop for America's best chicken. Some swore the voice on the radio would whisper, "Pull over, sweetheart, you look hungry." Those who did never made it home. Inside the phantom diners, Spaulding waited, his uniform spotless, his teeth yellow, his apron dripping red. He'd greet every lost soul with the same joke. "How you like your chicken? Extra crispy or still kickin'?" No one laughed. He laughed for them. His victims weren't eaten, not all of them. Some were turned into exhibits again, arranged inside glass coolers like art. He'd narrate their deaths to the ghosts of the Firefly family, raising his glass to the road that brought him new friends. Truckers still hear him over CB radio. A channel that doesn't exist plays his voice some nights. "Captain Spaulding here. Roads open, fryers hot. Who's hungry?" Those who answer never transmit again. The museum burned again for real this time. Firefighters said the flames smelled like sweet oil and rot. But 3 days later, the sign returned, not rebuilt, reappeared. Just standing there in the ash, lights flickering. Now, truckers avoid Route 666 after dark. They say a roadside diner appears from the haze lights on, windows glowing, a neon clown face grinning above the door. If you look away, it's gone. But if you stop, inside, it's clean. Jukebox plays 1,950 seconds rock. The air smells like fried food and gasoline. And behind the counter stands a man in clown makeup, smiling like an old friend. "Welcome to Spaulding's," he says. "Try the chicken, it'll kill ya." Customers laugh nervously. Then the lights flicker, the door locks, and the grill ignites on its own. Morning finds the diner empty again. Just an outline of a boot print in dried grease. Authorities never find the place. It moves, drifting along the highways like a mirage. Some say it's the road itself, feeding its ghost through him. Sometimes, a new sign appears near truck stops. Fried chicken and murder coming soon. And always, that laugh scratchy, distant, echoing through static radios. Road never ends, baby. Before the laughter turned cruel, before the mask and the murders, he was just a man named John Henry Twist. A carnival clown who loved children more than himself. He built toys, told stories, and made kids smile when their parents couldn't afford joy. He was simple, gentle, and a little slow. The others in the circus mocked him for it. One night in 1943, the jokes went too far. They said Twisty hurt the children. They said he touched what should never be touched. Lies spread faster than laughter. The crowd turned. The ringmaster fired him in front of everyone. He walked home that night carrying his toy bag and his broken heart. But the children followed, begging him not to leave. He turned them away. "I ain't no bad man," he whispered. "I just make 'em smile." Then he stopped smiling. Twisty tried to end it in the woods behind the fairgrounds. The shotgun misfired just enough to keep him alive and destroy his lower face. He woke days later with no voice, no mouth, and no purpose, just pain. Animals avoided him. People screamed at the sight. He covered the ruin with a makeshift mask, a tin smile hammered from a broken toy plate, and the teeth of a dead fox. It didn't fit, but it hid what was left. He stitched a grin onto the mask with wire and string, a smile made from desperation. He tried to perform again. He danced in empty fields for children who no longer came. He built dolls from scraps to fill the front row. But when hunger struck, he went looking for food and found cruelty instead. Teenagers spotted him and threw rocks, laughing at the freak. One hit his head. He fell. They left him bleeding under a billboard that said, "The fun starts here." When he woke, something inside him had cracked for good. The toys he built became traps. The laughter he gave became hunger. He returned to the carnival months later. The tents were gone. The rides dismantled. But the laughter still echoed in his head, taunting, endless. He made new friends. They didn't move, they didn't breathe, but they never left him. Each one wore a smile carved by his hand. Each one sat quietly in the ring, watching as he performed tricks with his rusted knife. He found peace in silence, in the rhythm of breath and scream, in the joy of painting new faces when old ones broke. He didn't kill out of rage anymore. He killed to make art. The children he took didn't cry at first. He made sure of that. He played the flute he'd carved from bone. He juggled. He danced. And when they laughed, he joined in, the sound wet and broken. Somewhere under all the madness, a small part of him still believed he was entertaining them, that he was still Twisty the Clown, still the good man who wanted everyone to smile. And that's the tragedy. He succeeded. The woods outside Jupiter, Florida, were silent that summer. No birds, no crickets, just the slow creak of rusted carnival rides long abandoned. The locals called it the Dead Fair, and kids dared each other to spend a night there. Most came back laughing. A few never came back at all. In the summer of 2024, a group of college students arrived to film a Halloween special, the Ghost Carnival Challenge. They brought cameras, lights, and cheap bravado. Their first night was uneventful, full of jokes and beer, and footage of broken rides. But when the Ferris wheel turned once on its own, they laughed too long. By midnight, the fog rolled in thick as wool. Their drone captured movement on the midway, a figure hunched near the funhouse, dragging a heavy bag. They assumed it was a vagrant, but when they called out, it looked up. Its mask caught the light metal grin, eyes hollow, hair matted into ropes. It didn't move. The students decided to approach. The camera footage later recovered showed them walking toward the funhouse, flashlights shaking. Then darkness. Only the sound of panting. Then laughter. Not human, not mechanical. Something wet and wrong. When the footage resumed, the screen flickered. The cameraman's lens pointed at a carousel, and there he was, Twisty, spinning slowly, holding one of the students by the hair, like a puppet, making it wave to the camera. The others screamed. The carousel stopped. Police found only fragments of film equipment and a trail of footprints leading into the trees, large, bare, and deep. The bag Twisty carried was found near a creek, filled with masks, children's toys, and bones small enough to be mistaken for chicken wings. That night, the power went out across Jupiter. When it came back, the local newsfeed played static, followed by a single frame. Twisty, staring at the camera, pointing at the viewer, his fingers shaking as though laughing. He had returned. And this time, he wasn't hunting for laughter. He was hunting for silence. Because the world had grown too loud, too cruel, too fake. He wanted to make it quiet again, the way it was when he performed for dolls who never judged him. Over the next few weeks, towns around Florida reported similar disappearances. Each crime scene looked staged tables set for tea, chairs filled with mannequins, victims dressed in bright colors, mouths stretched into grins with wire. He was making an audience again, and every show needed applause. The carnival returned that November, not built by men, but by memory. A sheriff's deputy driving the back roads at dawn saw lights glowing through the trees, red, blue, spinning in slow rhythm. He followed them and found the fairgrounds alive again. Tents stood where weeds had grown. The Ferris wheel turned in silence. The carousel played music with no source. And standing in the ringmaster's spot, under the spotlight of dawn, was Twisty. He moved differently now, slower, deliberate. His mask smiled wider, the metal jaw glistening with rust and blood. He held no weapon, just his toy bag, dripping faintly. The deputy called for backup, but his radio only played circus music, high-pitched, reversed. When he blinked, Twisty was gone. The next call came from a farmhouse miles away. The family hadn't answered their phones. Deputies entered to find every mirror covered with red paint, every photo turned face down. In the living room, they found the family seated around the table, heads tilted, faces painted white, lips stitched into grins. The father's hand held a broken music box that played Pop Goes the Weasel out of sync. The deputies fled. Outside, in the cornfield, the scarecrows wore the family's clothes. From their necks hung balloons made from stitched skin, inflated by air that hissed with laughter when cut. Twisty wasn't hiding anymore. He was touring. Every town within 50 miles reported the same pattern. Children missing, pets silent, radios hijacked by carnival jingles. The FBI profilers called it ritualized performance. But one photo from a crime scene told the real story. A stage built from scrap wood, surrounded by mannequins, with a sign overhead painted in blood. Twisty's comedy show. Live audience only. They finally understood. He wasn't killing for revenge or madness. He was performing for someone or something watching from the dark. A witness who escaped said she saw him bowing to the shadows after every act. When she screamed, he didn't chase her. He just tilted his head, like a disappointed teacher. Then he whispered through the metal teeth of his mask, "Don't ruin the show." The witness was found the next morning, her lips sliced into a smile. They finally burned the carnival down. Every tent, every ride. They poured gasoline into the dirt and prayed it would stop the laughter. But clowns don't burn, they just change form. A month later, a traveling carnival opened in another state, a rebranding called the Smile Parade. It claimed to honor classic clown traditions. No one noticed the logo, a cracked mask with a single black tear. The new clown mascot never spoke, only waved. Children loved him. Parents joked about how real the costume looked. On closing night, the fireworks misfired. The tent caught fire. Screams filled the sky. But when the smoke cleared, the clown mascot stood alone on the stage, untouched, the metal grin shining through the ash. He waved once more before vanishing behind the curtain. Weeks later, new reports surfaced across the country of performers wearing twisted smiles, of small-town circuses where audiences went missing, of laughter recorded over police scanners at 3:00 a.m. Some say Twisty's spirit possesses whoever puts on his mask. Others say the mask itself grows new faces when no one's watching. Children still leave toys in circles under their beds, whispering to the funny man they see outside their window. Parents tell them to sleep, but in the dark, when the night grows quiet, something scratches softly on the glass. If they listen close, they'll hear it. The muffled creak of a smile widening, the slow exhale of a breath that isn't theirs. Because Twisty doesn't stop when the curtain falls. He just moves to the next town. And in the distance, faint through the trees, the music starts again. Pop goes the weasel. Before the painted smile, before Gotham, before the madness, there was just a man who wanted to be seen. He told jokes in smoky bars where nobody laughed. His name wasn't remembered because names die faster than laughter. He wanted the world to notice him, to understand the punchline he carried like a wound. He lived in a city that chewed up the poor and called it justice. The streets stank of rain and trash and broken promises. Rent overdue. Medicine out of reach. Every day he told himself, tomorrow will be funny. It never was. The mask came first. A cheap clown's face from a pawn shop, cracked porcelain, peeling paint. He wore it to hide the shaking. He wore it because people laughed at him anyway, so why not give them a reason? He started small pranks that made the city flinch. Spray-painted smiles on police cars, balloons filled with red paint left on courthouse steps. He called it performance art. Then came the night that changed everything. A gang hired him for a heist. The Clown Crew, they joked. It was supposed to be easy money. A robbery, a getaway, a few bruises. But the gang betrayed him. He was cornered, mask half off, standing on a catwalk above a vat of chemicals. Not so funny now, huh? They said. He laughed anyway. You'll never get the joke, he whispered and jumped. When he surfaced hours later, the man was gone. The skin had bleached. The hair turned green. The grin refused to fade. Pain twisted into something permanent. He stared at his reflection in the chemical sheen and started laughing. It wasn't joy, it was realization. The joke wasn't on him. It was on everyone who thought the world made sense. The city gave him a name. They called him the Joker. He became a mirror showing Gotham what it truly was. Chaos dressed as civilization. When he killed, he made it art. When he laughed, the city listened. Every explosion, every scream, every headline was a punchline to a joke only he understood. He didn't believe in evil or justice. He believed in the punchline, and he'd spend the rest of his life making sure everyone heard it. Years later, the laughter returned, not from alleys or crime scenes, but from screens. A new social app went viral overnight. Its filter stretched faces into grotesque grins, adding green hair and red lips. Users called it Joker mode. It was harmless fun until the update dropped. The new version recorded audio, and the laughter it played back wasn't yours. Within days, reports flooded in. Users claimed their reflections laughed before they did. One woman said her phone whispered jokes in her sleep. Another's camera wouldn't stop recording, even when she powered it off. Then, the killings began. Victims were found with smiles carved into their faces. Eyes wide open, phones in. Their hands still streaming live. Each caption read the same. Why so serious? The company that created the filter denied responsibility. But hackers traced the update to a ghost server registered under one name, J. Kerr. The code was strange. It wasn't written like software. It was written like laughter recursive loops that repeated on themselves, phrases built to infect. The AI expert said it wasn't malicious code. It was a joke that taught itself how to tell better ones. And it was spreading. Soon, billboards flickered with grinning faces that weren't advertisements. News anchors broke into fits of laughter mid-broadcast. Traffic lights flashed green, yellow, red, then all at once. Hospitals filled with patients giggling until their throats bled. Psychologists called it laughing plague syndrome. But the survivors described seeing something in the static, a man in purple standing just behind them, grinning wider than possible. The city was cracking, and the sound of its laughter was deafening. Every monitor in Gotham flickered with the same message. The joke's on you. No one could trace the signal. No one could stop it. But somewhere in the dark, behind a curtain of static and chaos, a voice whispered, I told you we'd have the last laugh. And when the power went out across the city, the streets glowed faintly from graffiti painted in blood, spelling one word on every wall. Ha. Gotham burned with laughter. Police sirens wailed through empty streets. Newscasters giggled as buildings collapsed behind them. The city's emergency broadcast network was hijacked by a single signal, a radio frequency looping an old vaudeville piano tune under endless laughter. Those who followed the sound found clown masks scattered across rooftops. Each one smiled. Each one whispered when touched. Detective Marla Grayson hadn't slept in 48 hours. She'd seen the Joker die 3 times, burned, shot, drowned, and yet here he was again, flooding her city with jokes no one wanted to hear. But this time, there were many of him. Copycats roamed the alleys, faces painted, minds infected. The laughter was viral, not metaphorically, but biologically. An audio frequency embedded in the city's network had rewritten how human brains processed fear. The result? Uncontrollable euphoria before death. Marla tracked the signal to an abandoned comedy club. Inside, mannequins filled every seat. Each wore a painted grin. On stage, a spotlight glowed on a microphone wrapped in red ribbon. A recording began to play. Knock, knock, silence. Who's there? More silence. But the mannequins turned their heads toward her, one by one. Death. Their mouths opened. Laughter erupted, shaking the walls. She screamed and fired, but the mannequins bled. When the laughter stopped, the spotlight shifted. There he was, alive, as always. Standing in the center of the chaos, purple coat torn, face smeared, smiling. "Didn't I tell you?" he said. "All it takes is one bad laugh to ruin the world." He vanished in the flash of a bomb shaped like a toy. The club collapsed into smoke and fire. The next morning, the laughter had stopped, but so had the city. Everyone was smiling, dead silent. Months passed. Gotham rebuilt. The city banned clown imagery, comedy clubs, even the color purple. But you can't outlaw an idea. And the Joker was no longer a man, he was a philosophy. The virus never died. It lived in memes, videos, ringtones. People still heard faint laughter and static, still dreamed of jokes that ended in explosions. Some said the Joker was a ghost in the machine, a program encoded in every network that could laugh forever. One evening, a comedian in a small club downtown tried to tell a joke he found online. It started normal. "Why did the chicken cross the road?" But the audience interrupted, laughing hysterically. Before he finished, the lights dimmed. The laughter deepened. Then came the voice from the speakers, because it saw what was on the other side. The club burned down an hour later. Security footage showed a flash of green hair and red lips in the mirror behind the bar. After that, laughter disappeared from Gotham altogether. No one dared to joke. No one dared to smile. The world forgot how. Until one day, screens across the city lit up at once. The same image appeared everywhere. A grinning face, eyes glowing white. The caption read, "Miss me." People said the laughter that followed didn't come from the speakers. It came from inside their heads, and it hasn't stopped since. The Joker's curse is simple: laughter without joy, comedy without end. The sound that begins when sanity breaks. Because he was never trying to make you laugh. He was trying to make you understand. And the joke? The joke is still running. It began as a dare, a joke between friends that should have ended with laughter. In 2014, a man in Wasco, California, put on a vintage clown costume, grabbed a blue balloon, and wandered the empty streets after midnight. His wife took photos, grainy, flashlit images of a clown standing beneath flickering street lamps, grinning. They uploaded them online with a simple caption, "Don't look behind you." The photos went viral overnight. People loved the creepiness, the absurdity of something innocent turned sinister. Soon, imitators appeared in Bakersfield, Delano, and beyond. But only one of them never stopped. At first, no one thought it was real. The videos, the sightings, they were just part of the game. But the real Wasco clown didn't laugh for cameras. He didn't post. He didn't perform. He watched. He appeared where no one expected, at the edges of playgrounds after dark, in driveways caught by motion sensors, reflected in windshields of parked cars, always holding a balloon, always still. His face was painted white, his smile too wide, his eyes wet and empty. He never chased, he never spoke. He didn't have to. People disappeared quietly. A jogger vanishing on his morning route. A child missing from her bedroom. Families waking to find blue balloons tied to their doors. Police found no evidence, only photos left behind, printed on cheap paper, always showing the same thing: the clown standing just outside the frame. Then came the video, a grainy handheld clip found on a discarded phone. It showed a man walking down an alley, laughing nervously as he recorded himself. "Okay, so I'm doing the Wasco challenge," he said. "Let's see if this freak actually..." The camera shook. A balloon floated into view. Then came the clown, standing in the middle of the alley, unmoving. The man laughed again, forced, panicked. "Okay, dude. Funny. You got me." The clown tilted his head. The balloon burst. The footage ended there. The phone was found days later. The man was not. When police enhanced the final frame, they saw something behind the clown rows of figures, motionless, all wearing masks of the same face. Some said it was a cult. Others said it was a prank gone wrong. But people in Wasco stopped going out at night. They stopped answering their doors. Because sometimes, when the fog rolls in thick, you can still hear the faint sound of a balloon squeaking as it rubs against a gloved hand. And if you follow that sound, you'll find him waiting just out of reach, smiling beneath the yellow glow of a street lamp. He'll raise his balloon like an offering. And if you smile back, even once, he'll follow you home. 10 years passed. The story faded into legend, a meme, a Halloween costume. The hashtag number Wasco Returns trended every October, full of kids dressing up for clicks. Then the photos came back. Not staged ones, real ones, found on doorsteps, pinned under windshield wipers, slipped into mail slots, grainy, black and white, each showing the same thing: a blue balloon floating over an empty street. At first, people laughed. Then came the disappearances again. A gas station clerk vanished during the night shift, the security camera catching only the faint reflection of a clown's face in the freezer door. A mother in Wasco posted a Facebook Live of blue balloons tied to her fence, dozens of them swaying in wind that didn't exist. The video froze on her face as she whispered, "He's back." When police arrived, the house was empty. The balloons were gone. The windows were open. A week later, a carnival tent appeared on the outskirts of town. No permits, no trucks, no workers. The locals called it a marketing stunt until the music started. Calliope tones drifted through the night air, warped and slow. A teenager live-streamed herself entering the tent. Her last words were, "I think I see." The camera fell. A single frame showed the clown inches from the lens, eyes black, smile too wide. Then static. Her phone was found hanging from a string of balloons drifting over the highway. The sheriff organized a search party. They found the tent, but it was empty, just dust, footprints, and the faint smell of makeup. In the dirt lay dozens of Polaroids of the missing. Every photo had been edited, their faces replaced with painted smiles. That night, the sheriff's car crashed. The dash cam played for hours after, recording nothing but balloons floating across the asphalt. By dawn, the tent had vanished again. The town went quiet. Even the wind seemed afraid to blow. The clown stopped waiting. He started choosing. In nearby towns, Shafter, Buttonwillow, Taft, people began receiving blue envelopes in the mail. Inside each was a Polaroid photo of their own house, taken at night. Sometimes a balloon reflected in the window. Sometimes their own sleeping face. No fingerprints, no return address, just one handwritten word: smile. Those who ignored the letter disappeared within a week. Those who burned it lasted longer, but they still dreamed of balloons popping in their ears. The Wasco clown moved like a sickness, a shadow that laughed only when seen. Police caught him once, or thought they did. A man in grease paint, carrying balloons, matching the description. He was trembling, eyes wide. "You don't get it," he said. "He made me wear it. He said if I didn't, he'd take my face too." They put him in a cell overnight. The next morning, the guards found only a pile of clothes and a single blue balloon tied to the bars. Cameras showed nothing, just the lights flickering. Then a whisper, soft and childlike, "Smile." By now, Wasco was abandoned. Only balloons remained, bobbing on mailboxes, swaying like grave markers. A journalist from Los Angeles drove through to film a documentary. He narrated calmly, trying to make sense of it. Then, while filming the main street, he spotted movement behind the curtain of fog, a figure. Standing perfectly still. He zoomed in. The clown, holding a balloon. The camera shook as he whispered, "Oh God, it's real." The clown tilted his head. The balloon floated up slow, deliberate, and burst with a sound like laughter. The feed cut to black. The journalist's car was found days later, still idling, headlights aimed at the empty road. His camera rested on the passenger seat, screen cracked, still recording. The reflection in the glass showed two people sitting in the front seats, both smiling. It's been over a decade since the first sighting, but the blue balloons haven't stopped. They appear in cities now, tied to bus stops, subway poles, fire escapes. Some burst on their own, leaving trails of blue powder that smell faintly of sugar and copper. Scientists tested it once. It wasn't paint or latex. It was human skin. Urban legends say the Wasco clown isn't a man anymore. He's an idea born from fear, reborn every time someone laughs nervously and says, "It's just a story." But stories feed him. A new viral trend began last Halloween. Teenagers filming themselves, popping blue balloons with captions like, "Summoning the Wasco clown." Most videos ended normally. A few didn't. In some, reflections moved differently. In one, the camera kept streaming for 4 hours after the user disappeared. The last thing heard was the faint creak of rubber gloves. Police can't track the video's origins. The accounts delete themselves. Now, balloons appear worldwide blue. Always blue. In Tokyo, in London, in Los Angeles. No fingerprints. No explanations. Some nights, street cameras catch him tall, still, holding a balloon that swells and shrinks like a beating heart. He watches, he waits, and if you see him, he doesn't chase. He just stands there until you blink, and when you open your eyes, he's gone. But you'll find a balloon waiting for you the next morning, floating by your door. Silent. Perfect. Don't touch it, don't laugh, don't even look at it too long. Because he's already watching. And he only needs one smile to find you. They say when the last balloon pops, the laughter will start again, and the streets of Wasco will echo with footsteps, slow and soft, coming closer. He'll come back holding his bag of faces, his endless balloons, and this time, the whole world will join his carnival, because everyone loves a clown, until he loves you back.